Today's episode, we are going to talk about our end of season award predictions / if we had a vote, what we're doing. We're going to predict the play-in and the first round of the playoffs, as well as Josh has the potential to be up 6 points after tonight's trivia. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Next.
Welcome back to the Two Pointers podcast. I'm Josh.
And I'm Trevor.
All right. NBA regular season is over.
Absolutely. Super excited. Excited that we're here finally. I mean, it feels like we just said that we were previewing it, and now, I remember we were doing, a 4-part preview? That 4-part
definitely doesn't feel like we were just previewing it because things have changed massively.
Absolutely. Let me get
you
this
remember,
out of the way.
just to point it out, you remember what we agreed was going to be the NBA Finals?
For those that don't remember, yes, I do. It was Lakers-Nets.
So one missed the playoffs altogether, and one is in the play-in tournament tomorrow.
As the 7 seed. Even better.
Are they 7 or 8?
They're 7. Cavs are 8. So, before we get to the playoff festivities, let's go ahead and get the fun, official kind of announcement preview thing out of the way. Draft Chat, officially, episode 1 went live on Saturday. So we obviously had our first guest on, Stephen Gillespie from No Ceilings. That was a great episode. It was received very well, only in a few days, and we technically didn't really announce it the week before. So thank you guys. Unbelievable support so far. Super excited. I know this is like a weird way to tie in the playoffs, the end of the year, to the fact that we're going to talk about draft a bunch for the next 2 weeks. LOL. 2 months. But we're super excited to be able to say that we have some more content coming for you guys. Like we said last week, it's free. Please go listen to it. It's draft content you don't have to pay a paywall for, So I'm super excited that we rolled that out, Josh.
And coupled with that, congratulations upon the end of the NBA regular season to the 4 winners of the NBA Tankathon. The Orlando Magic, Houston Rockets, Detroit Pistons, and Oklahoma City Thunder. You are the big winners, with the most likely odds on the lottery balls.
That was in order, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure it was from 1 to 4.
Yeah, that was lowest to highest.
If you had told me preseason that's what that was, I wouldn't have believed you, because the Thunder
30th place was Orlando.
Yeah, the Thunder at 4, which is interesting. No, I'm super excited for the draft lottery. That is in a week or 2. I think it's April 11th, Monday night, recording this. Something like that. It's in the next few weeks. It's very soon. It's sooner than I
May.
Forgot. Is it really? Okay, well, so much, right? So much for me remembering that. So, either way, while you're looking that up, I'll go ahead and get us rolled right into award predictions.
May 17th.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it's a month from next week. So, never mind. We will do the next draft chat, obviously, before then, but it's bi-weekly on Saturdays. So, all right, really fun, unorganized start. But let's do this. Let's award predictions as if, spoiler, we don't actually have a vote. But as if we had a vote. This is what Josh and I would go with, and we're actually going to start. The order, by the way, we actually didn't go over, so I'm going to quickly tell you what order I had, because, oops. I had MVP, Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Sixth Man of the Year, Most Improved, and Coach of the Year. And I'm 99% sure that's exactly what we did midseason and preseason. So that was probably accidentally right. So
you set them up, I'll knock them down.
All right, let's do it. We've already... literally last week, discussed our MVP debate because, it was the end of the year. So we'll go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off, and we'll go ahead. I actually have my first and second for each, so I have who I would have gave a second place vote to. Obviously, it's more complicated than that. You give 5 for every one of them, except for Coach of the Year, I think. But at the end of the day, I'll go ahead and get mine out of the way, and then we can go quickly here. At the end of the last week or so, I told you that I think it was a 2-man race. Sorry, Embiid. Any other year, you probably get it based on the narrative that, you just had a great year. But literally in the last week, Giannis lost it for me, and I went with Nikola Jokic because all the stats say he's the best player. I test. Obviously, I understand what the defensive numbers are for Jokic this year, but I still think Giannis is the best defender out of those 3, and I don't think it's close. But I will say that just Giannis and the Bucks kind of punted a couple of games. Obviously, it's for seeding jockeying. I'm not necessarily not a fan of it, but I think it's frowned upon. I think Giannis had a chance to just grab it and just run with it, and he didn't. And that, to me, how close it was. So I went with Jokic here in the last 48 hours. Are
Interesting.
you are you shocked? Is the question.
A little bit. I thought you were an anti-Jokic, anybody
um,
else kind of truther for a while.
no, so I'm surprised you didn't figure this out. I was anti Embiid, and it
Mhm.
was between those two the entire. It was between Jokic and Giannis the entire season for me. I was never anti Jokic, and I never have been. Even last year, I was not on the LeBron should have won train. As much as I wanted LeBron to win fifth or sixth MVP, I was opposed to it last year. I would have
Well,
been opposed to it
it
this year.
was the LeBron should win train until he got hurt, and then it became the Stephen Curry should win train.
And I was never on that. So,
Yeah.
so I've never been a Jokic hater. Let me just be clear to you and everyone. It was just to me how much Giannis's legacy impact. There's a lot there, whatever, right? I think they both now looking back more into it. I do think Jokic's legacy changes drastically because I'll just get the stat out of the way. Um, he is going to have in terms of it. I think it's win percentage or use. It's usage based on win shares or vice versa, right? Win shares based on your usage percentage. He's going to have the
Yes.
number one in NBA history as of today.
Yeah.
He passed. He's above Michael Jordan. He's above LeBron James, who are 2 and 3 in that statistical category. So, I mean, at
And
least
to clarify for
historically,
everyone, that means he has an incredibly low usage percentage for how many wins that he's providing for his
thank
team.
you for clarifying because the stat's really hard to describe when you look
Yeah.
it up, but I did see it.
He's being he is used less than your Giannis's, your Joel Embiid's, your Devin Booker, Jason Tatum players that have had outstanding seasons and yet has provided a greater impact.
Technically, if we're going by the stat, he's the least used, highest win percentage player in NBA history. Which is unbelievable. So very close with me. Obviously, I went Giannis, or yeah, excuse me, Jokic. I don't think anybody's shocked by who you're about to say.
I was thinking for a little bit about making a joke to try to make people think I'd change my vote, but it kind of just feels useless at this
Yeah,
point.
it does.
Yeah,
It does.
it's Nikola Jokic. It's never been anyone else. It's been Nikola Jokic since like week 2 of the season. So
One thing I'm intrigued by though is I do. Obviously, we saw. I'm not a fan of it. I told you before recording that I'm not a fan of the media people talking about too much of their vote, whatever. I'm not a fan of it because I do like reacting to it accordingly, especially on a year like this where this is probably the closest MVP in since 2008. That was like the Kobe. That was like your Kobe, your
is this one
Chris
close?
Paul. Well,
I don't feel like this is
publicly,
close.
yes, it shouldn't be publicly, but it is. Um, it will be. I mean, I don't think people realize there will be votes for Embiid and Giannis, and that's the point I mean by close. 08 was a lot closer, obviously, with Paul and Kobe and some others, but yeah, Giannis was 2 for me. Jokic was 1. I did finalize. I didn't write it down. I'm not going to do this for any other, but I'll just tell you my 5 because I think it's interesting. I told you I was fluctuating here and there with a couple, but I went with Jokic 1, Giannis 2, Embiid 3. I went with Devin Booker 4, and I went with Jason Tatum at 5.
Mhm.
So if I had an official vote, those 5 are getting my vote in that order. Luka barely misses it. If he's off that team, they're a lottery team. That doesn't make him an MVP for me. Jason Tatum was the best player on his team, and Jason Tatum had a better season statistically on both sides of the ball. Anyway, let's do Rookie of the Year because that is a fun topic or I guess it wasn't fun up until Cade Cunningham came back and started playing well. Obviously, Scotty Barnes had a great year. Evan Mobley, Jalen Green in the last 10 games or so, except for when they played Toronto, has averaged 25. So it's been a crazy race. With Rookie of the Year, who did you have?
So this is one that's actually changed since my midseason. I think during some of the times that Mobley has been out and kind of the way that the Cavaliers have kind of fallen back a little bit, I'm going with Scotty Barnes, Toronto Raptors, for Rookie of the Year. I think that I had him at second, middle of the season. He was my number 2 vote behind Mobley mid-year. And I think he's continued kind of the same level of play that maybe Mobley didn't quite keep up post All-Star break, as well as providing a massive spark to his team doing quite well. I think Scotty Barnes has looked great, and I think he's earned a Rookie of the Year vote from me. I don't know if he'll win it, but
So we're in the same camp, but with different people. So I'll tell you, I went with Scotty at 2. For similar reasoning, Scotty obviously took over for most of the season because that first 15 game stretch, Evan Mobley and Scotty Barnes, like we wanted Mobley to look that good. We thought he would. No one really thought Scotty would take off this quickly as somebody who was, quote, a raw prospect, right? He's been able to like take the ball up for them, be a playmaker, initiate offense. Like it's just been unbelievable. He's kind of been what OG Anunoby we thought kind of could have been in terms of his development as a player, but
Yeah, I
Scotty's
don't
been fun.
know how anybody that actually would have watched Florida State play when he was there would have ever thought that Scotty Barnes would have been a raw prospect.
He's talented.
He
I'm
was
not. I'm not
incredibly
saying.
polished for a college basketball player at Florida State.
I think he was less polished than Suggs was, and I think that was the argument with them going 4 or 5 there.
Some of that system stuff, though.
Correct. Gonzaga. We'll talk obviously more of that on draft chat, but for me, regardless, they both the impact of Mobley when he was out. The Cavs are worse. They were a non-play-in team, or a made the playoff team, however you want to word it, and now they are a play-in team, the 8 seed. A month ago they weren't. They were like the 5-6.
One thing to keep in context with that, it was not just Mobley who was
It was
out. It was
Allen,
also Jared Allen,
who's not going to be playing as
whose
well.
production was as great as Mobley is, whose production was bigger and is a more
Correct.
important player for the Cleveland Cavaliers, was also out in that time span.
Correct.
You can't weight everything on that aspect.
Correct. We'll touch on the Cavs Nets here in a few minutes, but Allen will not be playing for the play-in as well with the broken finger. For me, that's a great. Your point is good. What I'm going to follow up on is Evan Mobley for me. As close as it was, I went with. Sometimes eye test has to matter in an award that's close, and to me, Evan Mobley's a better player. Has had a really good season defensively. I think the defensive numbers for him are a lot better than people understand, and I think it was very very close. And I went with my gut and what I saw, and I think at that point it went for me. It was Evan Mobley, but it was super close. I'm talking like made the decision an hour ago, thought about it all year, yada yada yada. Right.
Yeah, I'm not going to fault you on that one. I mean,
There are people, by the way.
Mobley's incredible season.
I'm just going to get this out of the way. There are people that are going to at least think about. I'm assuming it will not be 1-2 for these guys and nobody else gets a vote. Kate Cunningham will get a vote. It's just a matter of because people don't understand. Like from January on, basically, he had to do everything for his team, and he won them more games than people understood. Like they weren't good by any stretch. You just include them in the top 4 teams to get a top 4 pick, but he was good. Like he was, I believe, finished out with like 19-7-6 or something like. I mean, just played exactly what you think he would be. He showed the could be the best player on a championship team for Detroit in the next 5-7 years potential. Like there's a lot there with him. He just unfortunately he plays all year and he wins them more games than they did. He's probably a lot higher in the conversation. All right, this is one I'm excited about because I told you before recording. I said we would agree on probably definitely 3. And then it would be a toss-up. To me, the Rookie of the Year was one of the bigger toss-ups, I thought, for us. I thought it might be close. I'm curious on your Defensive Player of the Year. Because, like, preseason, we are way off. There might not – our top 3 in preseason and midseason might not even be in the final 3. Like, that's insane to me. This award has been awesome.
Yeah, so I'll honestly say you brought me around on a guy who honestly should be considered in the most improved player race as well this year, but he probably won't be. But Robert Williams has really been the most staunch defender all season. As much as I love Rudy Gobert, and you know I love Rudy Gobert, I think Robert Williams has been by far, maybe not by far, but I think he's been the best defender in the NBA this season. I think he deserves some sort of recognition for the incredible season that he has had. And so I have him just edging out Gobert, who I have as the number 2 defensive player in the league this season, but I have Robert Williams winning Defensive Player of the Year.
All right. I'm going to give you a 5 to 10 second gap where you can laugh at me.
At number 2, you didn't pick Robert Williams after you wanted to, did you?
Yeah. I did not.
Yeah. This is just like mid-season when I picked Draymond Green, you picked Rudy Gobert.
Well, so not even like I was really close on Robert Williams then, and I didn't want to be the guy. I feel like it would have been way too early, and I should have just for future reference for the folks who listen to the show, I'm going to be a lot more bold on stuff because what have I got to lose, right? You guys listen to our predictions for whatever reason you do. We appreciate it, but I'm going to be a lot more bold in the future on
Trust
stuff
me,
like
people
that.
are listening for you to say outrageous things. I'll go midline except for when I talk about the Jazz.
Well, and that's great because I think you're right. Everything I said about Robert Williams, I think I'm right too. The problem is his teammate Marcus Smart to me was the better defensive player in terms of when he wasn't there. They literally are 0-10 when Marcus Smart didn't play this year. They're okay without Robert Williams right now, and it was that close. Like I'm talking the fact that I have two Celtics. If I had a vote this year, I don't know who the heck I'd vote for three. I'd be like, I don't even know. I would just sit there and stare at my ballot. So I went with Marcus Smart and Robert Williams, and when I tell you it was as close as Rookie of the Year, if not closer, Marcus Smart, we haven't seen a guy do this kind of defensive ability from the guard position since, you guessed it, Gary Payton, the last guy to win it. However, as crazy as this sounds,
Peyton also picked Marcus Smart as his defensive player of the year.
shout out to the glove. However, I think and don't aggregate me on this. I think what Smart has done outside of the guard position, because he plays the 1, the 2, the 3, he plays a lot of those positions because the Celtics switch everything, even though a 35-year-old Al Horford, has somehow made that work when they're not playing Robert Williams while he's hurt. What we're seeing from Smart beyond the guard, because as much as I love Gary Payton all time more than most, Smart is a better defender outside of the guard position. What he does in passing lanes and such, Gary Payton's one of the best, if not top 2, on-ball defender from the guard position ever. But Marcus Smart this year has done everything across the board. So, that being said, as I literally changed it 45 minutes ago, sitting in my hotel room. For those who might not know, if I sound super echoey, I'm on the road in Charlotte. Unfortunately, not for the playing game. We'll talk about that shortly. But it is what it is. So I changed it 45 minutes ago while I was prepping for the show.
Also, while we're getting on the Boston Celtics love, and I'm sure we'll talk about them more later,
Oh, we will.
Shout out to Ime Udoka and the changes that he made midseason, not only to turn the Celtics team around, one that I heartily bashed for a large portion of the season and off season, and really just using defense as a way to crack down to move their way back up. The Celtics finishing in the 2nd seed in the Eastern Conference, being at 8th seed or even borderline out of the playoffs at midseason has been incredibly impressive to watch. And just shout out to them across the board. They've been the best defensive team, bar none.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk more on the Celtics. I have some thoughts that don't relate to Marcus Smart and Robert Williams as much here in the next couple of minutes when we go on to the bracket here. 6th man of the year. You just want to do it on 3.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the one of the 3 I was talking about? Tyler Hero. Yeah, it's the Zoom thing. We record on Zoom.
You did on 3. I did after 3.
Yeah, whatever. It doesn't work on Zoom for you guys. Anyway, it's Tyler Hero.
I don't have anything else to say.
Literally, because 2 and 3 don't matter, I had Kelly Oubre at 2. Even though I do think there are better second place votes for me, but at that point, did it really matter? It does for the way the voting would count if we had one.
Tyler Hero comes off the bench for the Miami Heat, and until a couple of weeks ago, he was the leading scorer for the Miami Heat.
Bingo.
Yeah.
That's the Jamal Crawford argument. Period.
Like that's it. That's the whole.
Jamal Crawford won it 4 times, and he was actually not technically Lou Williams did this more, so I'm going to go with Lou Will. But either way, Jamal Crawford won it 4 times. Lou Will won it 4 times as well, and they both. Well, Lou definitely, I know for a fact. I have to double check the Jamal Crawford part of it. But Lou Williams was the leading scorer on his team all 4 years that he won the award. So, yeah, shout out to Tyler Hero, the dude in South Beach. Let's go with most improved player. This is the one I'm excited about.
Going with all the bias all the time. It's Miles Bridges. Give him the award. Bring him the award. Bring it to him. It's another year-end award for Charlotte.
So, wait, hold on. Another? What do you mean? Another? Oh, like another just to the total of the franchise. Not this year, you mean?
Yeah, I meant because we had one last year in the rookie Mellow Ball. So
yeah. I was so confused. I thought you meant this year. I'm like, we've already been through all the awards. You haven't picked any. No, okay. Okay. I told you before we started this I didn't want to argue. Um, but you have my permission to argue after this. I loved his play this year. Loved seeing him in person. Loved everything about this team. Loved everything he brought. I hate most improved player. Can I just go ahead and caveat this really quick? I hate this award
Mhm.
because I went back on my own word. Um, I have liked the awards predictions thing before we even started a podcast. I've liked to predict the awards. Something I used to write down in a notebook for like
Yeah.
the last 10 years. And my one rule, and if I didn't say this last year, I'll make it public this year. My one rule with most improved player is I don't pick a sophomore. I picked a sophomore. It's the one award, the one guy I had to flip on.
I can't even think of who you're talking about.
Miles Bridges was 3, and I'm so sorry to you. If it was 2, I literally would have to coin toss between Darius Garland and Jordan Poole because those two, I would literally have to give Miles a vote because I think you only do top 3 for most improved player.
What sophomore did you give it to?
Desmond Bane. Desmond Bane had an unbelievable season for an unbelievable team, and justifiably so, going from just under 8 points a game to 16 points a game to being one of the best defenders on his team to being a over 40% three-point shooter. Just the impact he's had because John Morant, people can make the joke about John Morant when he's not there, they win games still, whatever. Desmond Bane's a really big reason for their success. Jaren Jackson Jr. has missed a couple of games, which is what kept him out of Defensive Player of the Year voting for me. Again, this award, literally, I could have flipped a coin 4 times, and that was what I was going to go with. It's so many guys, and I can't give it to Ja because Ja was awesome last year. So the Garland thing hurts. Jordan Poole, I think, deserves some recognition. But just at that point, like, I had to break it up somehow, and I had to go. Darius Garland's awesome for the Cavs, but like you said, Jared Allen's impact has been awesome. Devin Mobley's impact, the team as a whole. I really liked what Desmond Bane brought on and off the stat sheet this year. I think it was super, super close. I probably should have done Bridges at 2, though. Go ahead. I'm prepared for your outlash.
I don't have anything against the guys who have obviously improved you talk about, but Miles Bridges went from Hornets' 6th man to the best player on the team.
Understandable. And that is
leaving that. Like, I'm just putting that out there.
It's a huge jump. The part that I had to differentiate for a couple was, first of all, we know Miles Bridges is good. That's another thing I take into consideration, which is why it's hard for the rookie sophomore thing. That's why I don't normally do that. Never have up until this moment. Never would have. For me, he is really good. I know what he is in terms of up until this year. We knew he was a good player, and we wanted to see a statistical jump. I do think the thing that was tough though for me was his jump was huge. Like it was a pretty big. Like you mentioned, 6 man of the year. Like regardless, or 6 man for him last year. Like he's a good player, and we knew he would develop. We knew LaMelo was going to be a huge impact for him. But I just there's just for it to be that close for me with the 3 guys that I had with Bane, Garland, and Poole. I went with Bane, and I outside of it, I could probably give you more, but I'm just not going to because I think it was that close. I had to differentiate between the fact that the Grizzlies are a 50-plus win team. He shot unbelievable from 3, had the same stats as Andrew Wiggins, who was who was an all-star starter. Obviously, I made that joke before. That was not a preview of my prediction. Again, made this pick here in the last couple of days. So Desmond Bane for me, and again, very close.
I'm not going to take time to argue about it.
No need to, because at the end of the day, he's going to get votes. I don't think people realize, like a lot of CBS Sports and a lot of the guys from ESPN that have votes, most of them have him at 2 or 3. So it's just a matter of I think this year's probably there's always most improved.
I honestly don't have any idea who the favorite is. Like maybe it's a Garland, I guess, the most likely one to
it's
actually.
Probably Garland. I think the betting favorite right now is Garland across most books, but at the end of the day,
that's one that I haven't paid much attention to. I don't really know. So.
That's also the thing.
I'm away with it.
You don't really have to because that's the most subjective award every year. Again, I picked RJ Barrett preseason. Who'd you pick? Do you remember? I'm curious to know if you remember. Because look, I'm not embarrassed by mine. RJ Barrett had a great back half of the year. He really did. He took over when Randall hit the dump. So, not
No
his
idea.
choice.
I don't remember.
I'll have to find it. Someone else look it up, aggregate Josh, and let us know. I have no idea what it is either. This is the last award, Coach of the Year. The one that it's the one of the three I think we absolutely are probably going to agree on. I'd be shocked if we have different answers. I hope for the sake of your I know you as a basketball person, and I would trust your basketball opinion that you would get this right because he deserves it.
I mean, I just feel like there's one person who really sticks out as deserving this one to me.
I'll give you 3 and 2 really quick.
Okay.
3 was Udoka, Ime Udoka. Completely
Yeah.
deserves.
Big
Completely
honorable mention for me. Yeah, absolutely.
Deserves a vote, no doubt. Somebody somewhere, Celtics truther, will give him a vote, even though it probably should be unanimous. Taylor Jenkins, number 2. People were probably wondering, the casual fan going, Taylor who? The Memphis Grizzlies coach. Because, again, people probably have to Google that name. I think it's a testament to him sticking to his system, and it's worked. Again, I think you kind of know based on those two being eliminated off my board, who you probably have as well. It's the best team. It's the team that people don't realize probably that have a top 17 record all time in terms of their 65 and whatever. Coach Monty Williams is one of the best coaches in the next 15 years of the NBA, and I don't think it's debate. He's an unbelievable coach with an unbelievable roster. Monty Williams deserves this head coach award.
So I went with Taylor Jenkins.
Oh my God.
I mean, and it's not anything against Monty Williams, but the Suns were fantastic this year. Proved me wrong when I thought for some reason they were going to fall off at the beginning. They were unbelievable. They deserve all the praise. I usually think of Coach of the Year most of the time based on who improved the team the most over a year's time. I think Monty Williams really deserved that award last year, that it should not have gone to Thibodeau.
Which is why I gave it to him this year.
But I can't do it just because he deserved it last year. I don't think I can do it now.
That's fair.
The Memphis Grizzlies roster didn't change at all. Not one bit. They have a better record than everyone in the Eastern Conference, I'm pretty sure. They're clearly the second best team behind Phoenix. And they only made the playoffs last year because they won play-in games on 2 play-in games in 3 days. Taylor Jenkins took the same players that could barely make the playoffs last year and has made them the easily second best team in the NBA. And I think that should be rewarded with Coach of the Year award.
Some might say some of their players improved.
Great coach.
Yeah. No, so I'm not. Look, it'd be different if I had Udoka at 2 and I had Jenkins at 3. But I had Jenkins at 2 because he does deserve it as well. I'll be honest with you. I believe there are, 60-something votes for all these awards. I think it's somewhere in the 60s, if not 50s or 70s. I'm not shocked if Monty Williams gets 90% of the vote. Just going to put that out there. I would not be shocked. They are the best. They're one, homework for anybody. Go look this up. Look at the Suns. Really take a deep dive at their record, their defensive impact all time, their defensive rating all time, their win shares all time. Some of the stuff behind the scenes for them, they're up there. They're rivaling some of the best records of all time. I'm talking 80s Celtics type of stuff, which is insane, right? And we'll talk about their path to the finals here in the next couple of minutes. So, are you ready? Actually, you want to just start with the Western Conference? That's a really funny transition. Do you just want to roll right into the West and let's do this? I think the West is a lot more fun up at the top this year, but we're obviously going to.
You always think the West is more fun. I think
at the top. The East, okay. Depth-wise, the East is 100% more fun. I'm talking about
as far as the sides. I think the West is going to be pretty chalky.
It is.
No. East is going to be an absolute bloodbath
100%
of a war.
Well, what I mean by that is the West being. I think the West at the top is really good. We just talked about it: Suns, Grizzlies, etc. After that, though, it starts getting really funky really fast. However, for the sake of the way the play-in tournament works, we're going to start with 9 and 10 because, work your way backwards, right? So let's go with the first matchup. We'll just start high. We'll start Pelicans Spurs at 9-10. For those that might not know, obviously, the winner of the 9-10 will play the loser of 7-8, and then the winner of the 7-8 will move on to play the 2 seed, and the winner of the second elimination will play Phoenix. So just a quick recap. I know that's hard to explain. I tried to explain it the other day to somebody I was talking to who's a newer NBA fan or / learning to be an NBA fan. And I had to explain the play-in tournament off the top of my head, and I think I lost them multiple times. And it's one of those things that shouldn't be that hard, but it is. And I understand why the NBA does it. I'm becoming more of a fan of it as we see it.
Yeah, like the play-in tournament in its structure makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Explaining it is just difficult.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Structure makes all the sense, but it's difficult to explain.
All right, let's go with who did, and for those that are new here, last year we did a little bit more of like a detailed breakdown. I think this year we're going to really spend more time on the series and breaking those down a little bit more detail. Yeah. And we're going to give more of like a reactionary, this is what I think is going to happen based on the fact you've heard our opinion for 82 games. Like, you know what we think about these teams. Kind of. So, with that being said, who do you have between the Pelicans and the Spurs?
I'm going with San Antonio. I'm not ready for the ride to be over for Pop and co. Because we've made it clear, I think, that Greg Popovich is going to retire at the end of the season. I don't know if he said anything like that, but it's still my expectation, and I'm not ready for the Popovich ride to come to an end. So, yeah, I'm going with the San Antonio Spurs. I also believe in DeJounte Murray more than I believe in any player who will actually step on the court for the New Orleans Pelicans. So, whatever it's worth.
Totally fair. 2 things. Pop has not said it, but I agree with you. I think it is absolutely happening. I think this is his last season. As unfortunate as that is, he's 73. He's kind of in that point where, and I'll tell you the reason I think this too is I saw literally a take today, which, by the way, if you hear someone's take or they tell you on social media or an article, if you read something that says they know what's happening within the Spurs organization, ignore it. It's probably wrong. However, no offense to our friends in the Spurs community, but what I'm saying is there's a reason they didn't tank this year. It's because they think they could win into the play-in. And Pop doesn't care at that point about the legacy. They missed the playoffs 2 years ago, I believe, right? It was 2 years ago now. Holy cow, is that forever ago now?
We've also seen, like, even if they'd picked in the top 5, they'd take somebody that we've never heard of anyway. So there's no reason to get a high draft pick.
You're going to keep making that joke until they draft, like, the most obvious guy.
Because we all sat around and looked at each other when they said the San Antonio Spurs draft Josh Primo. We were all like, who?
Yeah, I looked at you and I went.
Primo.
I looked at you. I remember we were out.
Josh Primo.
No, again, have his rookie cards. Totally rooting for his career. No, I looked at you. You were to the right of me, and I'll never forget this. I looked at you and I went. He wasn't top 30 on my big board. I just want you to realize. I'll never forget it. I looked straight at you and I went. And we're not doing a visual podcast yet. For people who don't realize, I'm literally looking past Josh on a table like this. I'm leaning forward. I legitimately did not have him in the top 30. The draft is always fun. All right. Anyway, I think the conglomerate of a team and the streakiness of the fact that they've played really well for the last 25 games, like the Pelicans beat the Spurs. I think it's probably close. DeJounte Murray, you're correct, is a really phenomenal player. Probably the best player on the floor. However, Herbert Jones can guard about anybody right now, and I fully mean that. He's been unbelievable. I think this game's close. I don't think it really matters, but I think the Pelicans move on.
One thing that'll be key, it looks like right now that Brandon Ingram will still be out for the playing game, so he will not be there for New Orleans. As much as I want New Orleans to make the playoffs, I really do, because if they do, the Hornets get their draft pick. I just don't see it happening.
You went with your brain instead of your heart. I like that. I appreciate that.
Yeah. That'll leave it open for the Eastern Conference when I do not go with my brain.
It's all good. Thanks for the spoiler ahead of time. Who is playing the Pelicans, the Wolves or the Clippers? Which, by the way, before you say anything, sorry, the Clippers will be with Norman Powell and Paul George, but will not have Kawhi Leonard and co. But they will have Norman Powell.
Playing?
Yeah, he came back a few games ago, but he's been slowly ramping up. He'll be there. Norman Powell will be there.
Oh,
the rest of that team. Norman Powell, who just came back with a broken foot. I mean, that's a big injury to come back from quickly, but he did. He's looking pretty good. So they will have those two, and the Wolves will have everybody, I believe, except for one of the McDaniel. Whichever McDaniel's on their roster, I can't remember.
Jalen.
Thank you.
Jalen plays for the Hornets. Yeah, it's very confusing.
confusing. So I think they're without McDaniel, but regardless, they are pretty much at full strength. The Wolves are.
Even with Paul George, I still have Minnesota. I think Cat has finally shown what superstar he can be when he plays a full season. The Timberwolves have frankly just been a supremely better team. The drop off between 7 and 8 in the Western Conference is large. Yeah, give me Cat, D'Lo, and Anthony Edwards on to Memphis in what should be a very interesting Grizzlies, Timberwolves. Who wins between a bear and a wolf challenge? That should be fun.
Yeah,
that should be a fun series.
We should definitely just do a separate pod that we put up on like a random place people have to pay for, where we just do a mascot battle.
Just do the mascot fights.
Yeah,
predicted only based on who would win in a fight between the mascots.
See, I just had this. See, you see this light bulb that just went above my head? It didn't literally, but we're gonna change the industry. We're gonna make people pay for the ridiculous content. We're gonna do a Patreon where it's like, hey, our Patreon, our first episode is gonna be, we're gonna do a playoff preview with just mascot battling. Or next year, the NCAA tournament, it'll be tier 3 Patreon. You have to listen to us pick the mascots, or let our wives pick it, or whatever, dude. It'd be so much fun. Okay, anyway, all jokes aside, I do think the Wolves win. I think it's close. But every couple of years, the reason I pick the Wolves, every couple of years, I do think there's a player. Whether they make past the first round or not doesn't have to matter for me personally, but I do think there's a guy every couple of years that just goes, we go, oh my gosh, that young superstar that we know is going to be really good, but he like took this leap in the playoffs and showed what he's worth. Cat's going to be the guy this year. I think it's him and everyone else. So I think the Wolves take care of the Clips in a close game. So we both have the Wolves. I have the Pelicans. You have the Spurs. I guess the way it was worked out was either way we have. Is that who we have making it? See, this is the part that I hate about doing this on the audio part, is we both think that the Pelicans and the Wolves are making the playoffs, right? No, we
picked the Wolves,
right,
to be the 7th seed.
They're going to be good. Got it.
And now the prediction is between the Clippers against, you have them against the Pelicans. I have them against the Spurs.
See, who's going to be the 8th seed? This is the part I don't like doing this like this, but
it makes the most sense, but it is difficult to explain.
Yeah. I'll make it simple for you. I have the Pelicans beating the Clippers.
Ow.
I have the Pelicans making the playoffs.
I mean, that'd be nice for the Hornets, but I came in here completely prepared to pick the Spurs to beat the Clippers and make the 8th seed. Just kind of that miracle 10-seed run. With Paul George back, I am not going to do that. I'll pick the Clippers to take 8 to make people think that Paul George is going to scare the Phoenix Suns before they get run out in 4 games. But
that's fair. We'll just go right to 1-8 then, since you just went straight for it. We'll go 1-8. We'll go 4-5.
Get the brooms out.
You're good. That's fine. We'll go 1-8, 4-5, 3-6, 2-7.
Okay.
Well, basically, in my head, I'm going down the bracket. That's the best way I think it is to work out. So, Suns. I have Suns Pelicans. You have Suns Clippers. I don't think it really matters.
Not one bit.
I would be shocked if one of these games ends in whoever they play. The Clippers would be interesting with Paul George, don't get me wrong. If it's the Pelicans especially, I don't think there's a game, and I love the Pelicans this year. I think they've been a lot of fun the last especially 25, 30 games. But if the Suns play the Pelicans especially, there will not be a game that does not end with the Suns winning by more than 10. And I fully believe that. So
Pelicans aren't going to win the 9-10, so I don't even know that.
It's okay. Regardless. It doesn't matter who they play. Even if it is the Clippers, I'd be shocked. So I have notes, some like quick notes people know, like after listening to us a while, like how I take notes for shows. I don't have any notes for the 1-8. I literally have a star and sweep. That's literally all I put. And I don't feel bad about it. The Suns are, like I said already earlier, they're one of the best teams in the last 50 years in terms of a lot of things. So, Suns beat the Pelicans in 4. We're in agreement there.
Yep.
All right. 4-5. Hit me with it.
4-5. That's the Dallas Mavericks and the Utah Jazz. And I'm going with Utah.
In
take
how
it,
many?
6 games, 4-2.
Oh, all right. This quickly we agree again.
I think one, like I think the Mavericks blatantly are talented enough to take a game. I mean, like they're the higher seed here to take a game from the Jazz. But then also I think the Jazz tend to have some offensive struggles in the playoffs and not quite perform as well as they normally would, which is why I say it should be a 6-game win. Otherwise, I would have gone 5. But I think 6 because the Mavericks will match up well enough to score a few before it comes to an end for them.
So where I came to the conclusion, for those that might not realize, Luka literally in game 82 injured his calf, and it did not look very good at all. Thought it was knee to knee, didn't react immediately when he hit his knee to someone's knee, hypothetically, and then realized a couple seconds later when he started to run back down the court, he could not. I'm not convinced he even plays game 1. Dallas media thinks he's questionable. I don't know. I that's the part for me. If Luka's fully healthy, I'm picking the Mavs as much as I hated this team all year. And it sucks because I hate an injury to change a series. But I think if he plays at
Mavericks
least
source,
somewhat,
when asked if Luka Doncic could be ruled out for game 1 at any point, he said no.
and that's fine. This is the playoffs. You think you're going to win the series. If you think he'll get healthy, if you beat him quickly, I get it, whatever. For the risk of your star, you probably don't play him game 1 if we're being, common sense wise here. But if it's as bad as they say it is or not, I still think that was the cloud for me for this series. I almost went Utah 5 because of the injury, but I do think, again, like you said, Utah's struggles, and Dallas is a team that will slow it down. They are the slowest paced team in the NBA, and I think that will matter for Luka, and I think that will matter for the fact that the Jazz play good half-court defense. I just think it's going to be
Yeah, I
close.
question if a slow pace is good for Dallas in a matchup against Utah.
It's not good. It's not bad for either team, to be clear. So I think the injury is what clouds it. I do think the Mavs are, believe it or not, slightly deeper than Utah right now, but it's just tough because both these teams, I'm not going to lie to you, I think I like both these teams less than any of the others, and they play each other, unfortunately. This is probably just spoilers for everybody. This is probably the series I watch the least. All seriousness, I probably watch, if it's Suns Pelicans, I probably watch 2 of those games. So, at least. 3-6.
It was Golden State and Denver. I have the Warriors in 5.
Really?
Mhm.
5? Tell me more on 5, because I'm curious why you have 5.
Yeah, I think defensively, Golden State, it really kind of stretches out over Denver quite a bit. Golden State has continued to look good since Clay has been back. They haven't quite maintained that best in the league spot that they were at. But frankly, they look better on defense. This is still Denver in the one-man Nikola Jokic show, which is going to win them at least one game at home in Denver. But the one-man Nikola Jokic show isn't going to be what essentially I'm just calling it as the Warriors run it back from 2016 with the Splash Bros.
Heard that comparison a couple times this week. 2016 at least to this team. I'll say this: Steph's injury, it wouldn't be a playoff series first round where we were curious if Steph was fully healthy. Sorry, that's not a knock on Steph. That's just the fact that he's had multiple playoff series in his career where we come into the beginning of the playoffs and we go, is he fully healthy? I don't think so. And they find a way to win a series. I think Jokic can't do it all, as literally much as that's what he did to win MVP and to get them to the 6th seed and not have to play the play-in. Think about that for a second. The Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray-less Nuggets right now are the 6th seed.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately for Jokic, this is where the road ends. I have the Warriors in 6 because Draymond, whether people like it or not, is not the same player anymore after the back injury. It's on and off the court, it's obvious. And then Steph's injury, they're pushing that he'll play. Same thing with Luka.
I think Steph could average 25 on one leg in a series, so I'm just not
totally fine. And I think Jokic can do enough, quite literally. And they are a team that, like, when they beat Charlotte, they shot like 30. When I was at that game, they shot like 36% from 3, which is average, if not slightly below average. And they were able to beat a team like that. I'm not saying, like, what I'm saying is they can shoot better than that, and they have multiple times. So if they do, they probably make a game out of it. But the Warriors in 6 for me.
And finally, the 2-7, Memphis and Minnesota. I went back and forth between calling this a sweep and calling it 5 games. Sorry to everyone, my first round predictions aren't the most shocking or interesting, but I'm going to go with Memphis in 5. I'm not going to give out too many sweeps in what I think is a competitive top 7 in the Western Conference. So props to the Grizzlies to take a 5-game series over the Timberwolves.
after literally winning the play-in to play the Jazz last year. Super exciting for the Grizz. I agree with you. I do think they win in 5. It's this testament only literally because of the cat part of it. Ja doesn't have to probably play up to full speed this series, can probably still win, etc. I think Cat has one of those stupid, like he had a 50-point game this year, I believe, didn't he? He'll probably have like a 41 and 17 game or something stupid like that. He'll probably have one. And that's probably what wins them that game. So we'll go for me, same thing, Grizz in 5. To recap, I believe we have the same. So I think we literally have, for the actual who makes it through, when we talk about the second round in a few weeks, it'll be Suns, Jazz, it will be Warriors, Grizzlies. Super boring. That's the West this year, though. Good teams, bad teams I'm not too thrilled about. So looking forward to
the conference semifinals is where the NBA playoffs really pick up. But, yeah.
However, for the East, they start tomorrow, before this episode even goes up, probably. I'll probably have it up super late Tuesday or super early Wednesday. Let's roll into the Eastern Conference.
Which matchups first playing that you want to talk about?
Wouldn't it be fun to do the 9-10 just like we started with it in the West, right?
Sure.
Take it away, my friend.
All fly. Hornets move on.
All right. What is your... I know your heart says that. Like, what is your mind?
All fly. Hornets move on.
Okay. All right. Okay. So for me, I think this is a worst case scenario draw for the Hornets out of these 4, as much as people are going to go to that statement. What? Hold on. Yes, because you've beaten the Nets. I believe you swept. Did you sweep the season series against the Nets? I'm pretty sure you did. Pretty sure we looked that up last week.
No, I didn't sweep it. We won
it. Okay. Either way, you beat the Nets. You still can. Yada yada yada. Right. Obviously, people are going to say when I say that because they're going to think the Nets is the worst matchup. The Hornets have beaten the Nets this year. The Cavs missing Jared Allen. I think the Hornets. That's a huge win for the Hornets if they play them. How it shook out, I think they could beat the Cavs pretty easily. With that being said, process of elimination, I think the Hawks were the worst draw. The Hawks are the worst draw because they're the hottest team out of those 4 right now. And I don't think that's close. Trae Young just finished the season with the most points total and the most assists total. Last guy to do that was Tiny Archibald, for those that might not know, which is a big deal, right? Trae's been unbelievable. They've been better defensively. So I think this game's really close, and I almost picked the Hawks. But I've seen the Hornets in person this year enough, finally. Been wanting to get to a game, like I said. And I'm glad I did because I saw a lot of things that really, really convinced me that they could make some kind of cool run. The issue is the Hayward injury, right? Hayward's not there. It's tough, right? There's a lot of good things riding on this team. I think they beat the Hawks, but I think it's super close. I think it comes down to the wire.
Yeah. The Hornets and Hawks split the season series this year, 2-2. Most recent meeting was March 16th, which was a 10-point Hornets victory. No Hayward in tow.
The Hawks were good then too. They were winning.
Frankly, I'm joking if I'm claiming that I'm analyzing any of this.
Well, and that's the thing. That's why I'm glad. I'm okay with you doing the fan part of it because I looked at this unbiasedly because at the end of the day, like I had to because this matchup is probably going to be the most close out of all of them. Plan wise, and I think
I just need to see my guys win a postseason game.
And even if
what would be the first time in 6 years.
Favorite thing about the play-in too is if they lose, they're not out. Like that's okay; they can still do this, right? But I do think the Hawks is close. So
what? No, like this is 9-10. If they lose, they're out.
I keep forgetting that it's the 9-10. I had them; they were in the 8 for a long time. It keeps messing me up. God bless America. Okay. Anyway, regardless, they can win this game, and I think it is close. I think they do win it.
Oh, I mean, it's a coin flip for most people, which it should be.
I'm not shocked if in 3 days the Hawks win. And I'm not going to be I'm going to be upset. Don't get me wrong. But the Hawks are really good right now. I'm not saying they're a better team. I think these teams are really close, but obviously preseason, you and I both had the Hawks in the top 3. And I think Trae Young, by the way, is a top 3 or 4 MVP.
Well, it's like we're talking about the 7 through 10 in the East are all leaps and bounds ahead of everybody below 7 in the West. So
totally fair. The Trae Young thing though, this year, we both had him preseason at 2 or 3. I think we both had the Hawks. If they are in that 4 spot right now, and the way Trae Young's played, he's probably an MVP vote. It's for some people, or at least a top 3 or 4 or 5. And it's crazy how different the Hawks have been.
I thought he was the best guard this season. So, yeah.
Let's go with Nets Cavs, even though no Jared Allen, that's probably tough.
Yeah, that's kind of what. So no Jared Allen and the game
It's in
Kyrie Irving can now play in Brooklyn. That kind of sorted out all of my decisions for the game, and that I'm going to go with Brooklyn.
I think I would have picked him even without Kyrie because of the Allen injury. It was probably that close, but either way, it doesn't matter. It's a 7-8. I'm not confused this time. It's the 7-8. They're not eliminated. Ha. The 7-8, I think the Nets move on. So I believe it
We
is.
both have Cavaliers Hornets.
Go ahead. Say it.
All fly. Let's move on.
I unfortunately have the Cavs.
It's fine.
And I'll tell
They
you,
are
and I'll
3-7
tell
in
you,
their last 10, but
they are. However,
however,
however, I didn't know how to pick this game. I
yes,
looked up stats. I looked up the season series. I did everything. They were 2-2, like you mentioned already.
yeah. Okay, let's you go. I have one stat that I didn't want to bring up.
I'm sure there's one that I'd probably missed that's convincing and why I shouldn't pick the Hornets like an idiot. And I'm not going to change my pick live because that would be the biased Homer Two Pointers podcast thing to do, and I'm not going to do it. I just think the Cavs this year, I think Evan Mobley makes a difference. I think Evan Mobley is better than Mason Plumlee. And obviously Jared Allen
Well,
being out
yeah,
hurts. I think Evan Mobley's better than Montrezl Harrell. I think he's better than anybody they try to put on him.
yeah.
And I think he's going to be an X factor in that game. And I just think it's going to be that close because Garland's been awesome, but so is LaMelo. Problem is, who do the Cavs put on Bridges? I don't know. I guess they put a Coro,
Chetty Osman.
Jay Osman, or a Coro, right? There's options, right? They can throw
No, that's a
threes at
joke
him.
because Chetty Osman's like one of the worst defenders in the league. That's why.
I believe it. I wouldn't even have to look that up to believe
Horrible at
it.
defense.
But no, I just think it's super close. I don't really know how to pick, so I went with the Cavs. To
I
be
don't know if
contrary to you.
anybody's really afraid of Mobley's offense right now. He has struggled in the second half. But the thing I do want to point out, and this is, and you probably aren't going to know the answer to this, and it's fine. This is a very Hornets super fans that watch all the games will know this and know what to expect, but everyone else will kind of just like see it when it comes. Have you ever watched the Hornets play in Cleveland against the Cavaliers?
Have I ever?
Yeah.
I probably did one of the 2 times they played this year, maybe. Yeah. I mean, if I didn't,
Yeah,
fine.
specifically in Cleveland.
No, probably not.
Okay. So Terry Rozier is from just outside of Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay.
And every time Terry Rozier plays at Cleveland, he scores 30 plus, like nearly every time, bar none, just shoots like 80%, lights out. It's an incredibly weird phenomenon, happens every time. Every time we go to Cleveland, Terry hits basically every shot he puts up.
And this is like not just the Hornets Terry. This is also Boston Terry.
Yeah, basically.
Oh, okay.
Whenever
All right.
Terry plays in Cleveland in Quicken Loans Arena, he hits basically every shot he puts up. So that's what I would fully expect to happen in a Hornets Cavaliers matchup in Cleveland.
Yeah. Look, phenomenons. I love stats like that. Whatever. That's how
It
close that game
happens
is.
so many times it's kind of uncanny.
To be clear, if the Nets would be whoever they play as long as it's not the Hornets in the 7-8. And to be clear with you, I fully went into this before I started sitting down today and breaking down the predictions to try to get them what I thought was right. I fully thought the Hornets were going to make it no matter what, and I had it at that point. It was that close. I went contrary to you because I think it could happen very easily. With Hayward there, I picked them no matter what. Just to be clear with everyone. Cool. So we both.
One exception, the Hornets played in Cleveland on October 22nd towards the start of the season. Terry Rozier was hurt in the first half and did not have a good stat line.
Doesn't count.
Yeah.
When they would have played the whole game, I'm not going to count against.
He played less than a half, only took 5 shots.
I want this phenomenon to say the same. Let's go 1 versus 8. You have Hornets versus Heat. I have Heat versus Cavs.
No, I'm not going to do it.
I thought you were about to be like cats, like from the March Madness show.
The Bobcats,
or Rock Chalk, which you were basically correct on the entire show.
This is funny. You know who the Hornets played the last time they were in a 7-game playoff series?
It was the Heat. I remember.
Yeah. It was the epic Game 6 battle back and forth between Kemba Walker and Dwayne Wade. Oh, how times have changed.
Where D Wade's looking around for Jordan in the crowd as he hits those shots and jumps over. Yeah, that was nuts. I remember.
I will root hard for the Hornets to win. I
Last
think
time they
maybe they'll
played.
pick up a game. So I'll give them a game and say Heat win in 5. But every time I've seen us play Miami, I just feel like there's nothing we can do, frankly.
Yeah, last time they played, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist was an X factor, so I feel like I'd like their chances better in this series when you don't have a player like that. No, I'm sorry, that was a shot to Mike. That was mean. I'm sorry. I have
I
the
think
Cavs
we
here.
finished, we had about this a very similar record then. It's a
Regardless,
similar quality Hornets team
I just wanted
as
to.
that time
I just
against a
wanted.
much better Miami Heat
I
team.
just wanted a shot at MKG. That's all.
Yeah,
So
I know.
1-8. I would probably pick the Hornets to win the game against Miami. I'd probably pick Miami in 5, but I do have the Cavs. Sorry, Cleveland, you had a great year, and if you'd made 6, it probably would have been more interesting because 6 versus this year's 3, being the Bucks, would have been really fun.
There was that period of time mid-season where I said Cleveland was the best team in the NBA, so you'll always have that.
Yeah,
Or
no,
best team in
at
the
the
East.
time,
Sorry, I never have
at the
any
time,
best team in
sure,
the East.
whatever, but that's why I don't try to aggregate stuff in January. But yeah, Heat, Cavs. I don't care who it is. I think it's Heat and 4, even though I don't think the Heat are the best team in the East.
4-5.
4-5. Sixers, Raps.
So
Can
if
I go
you
first?
want your
Can I
for
go
the blood,
first?
yeah, go ahead.
Because I want to get this out of the way. The public. This is the most popular. The public and media think that the Raps are going to beat the Sixers because of the way the Raptors play. I've looked across the board. Like it, pretty unanimously, people think the Raptors are going to win this
I just
series.
keep seeing highlights of that Kawhi shot that bounced all around the rim. That's
I'm
just
sure Joel Embiid sees that every time he goes to
yeah.
bed between now and game one. But the reason and I think if you really, really think about it and break it down, I don't think it's the Raptors, and I'll tell you why. They're both top. You're talking about earlier with the Mavs and the Jazz being low in pace. Um, these teams are both top 5 in short and slowest pace. And what did I tell you was Philly's biggest Achilles heel against anybody would be how fast the game would be played, right? Joel Embiid would have time to get back on defense, have time to set up his 30 and 12 he's going to have. The only issue I'm having right now is Seth Curry is a huge X factor for them because they're not a very deep team. They're missing Niang for the whole first series. Curry's playing about 80% right now on a sprained ankle. Um, but if this series slows down, I'm convinced Philly can win it just based on the fact that Embiid and Harden are 2 of the best players in the NBA when they're playing really well. Problem is Harden's been terrible. So I think it's a close series. I think it's a great series. I think it's probably the best first round series in the East. And it's Sixers and 6.
Yeah, so I also have the Sixers.
I knew it.
I
I
haven't
fucking
gotten
knew it.
completely on board with Toronto, although I do have the game going 7. I think it's very close. As always with these two franchises, it's razor thin, but it does come down to the fact I think Toronto has put together an incredible run. I still don't know really how they're doing it, to be frank.
Uh, I have the answer. I was about to say it before you said that. The answer
Um,
is Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse has been
yeah,
unbelievable.
I understand you're a huge Nick Nurse guy.
I am a huge look. What's even crazier? I'm going to back this up really quick. I mentioned this earlier when I slandered Jalen Green's last 10 games. Jalen Green averaged like 27 a game in the last 10. Do people realize that? Right, like 27 a game. You realize out of those 11 games, I'm going to say 11 because it was really hilarious. You realize the one game he didn't score 20 points in his last 11. You know who it was against? The Toronto
Toronto.
Raptors. You know how many points he had? Like 8. And he was averaging like in that 5 game span like 31. It was stupid.
Now,
And
Kevin Porter Jr. did drop 35 on the Raptors in that game,
that's fair. But
and
anyway,
Josh Christopher got 20. But
doesn't change the fact that they probably can't stop Embiid. And at that point, can they figure out Harden if
no,
Harden
I
plays
just
the way he
I'm not putting it on Kim Birch to shut down Joel Embiid in the paint. Neither am I putting it on Chris Boucher.
Yeah,
So
who can't
Sixers
get
and
up and down a
7.
court for 25 minutes or more at a time. His conditioning is quite poor. All right, 3-6. The last 2 matchups here, I think, are
That
really
is
intriguing.
Milwaukee and Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Bulls fans, I'm very sorry. Get the Bruins out. The Bucks are winning in a sweep here.
This is probably the most. We've done this for almost 2 years now.
I feel like the first round's not
Well, so
super off the wall most of the time.
depending on the matchups, I think we actually got really let down by some of these matchups because I think a few weeks ago we thought some of these matchups would have been insane, and then I think they kind of fell a little weird. I think the second round's going to be, like you said earlier, like the second round's going to be nuts for both sides. But yeah, I don't have a broom in this hotel room, unfortunately. I was gonna grab it, but unfortunately, and it literally only comes down to this one thing for me. You can look up. Shout out to our friends at StatMuse. You can look up on their site, their lovely, lovely, awesome stat site, as they're starting to build it and improve it. They don't have everything, but they do have a one of my favorite things to look at is records since blank. Records since January 1st, January 31st. I think it's a really cool way to look at a team's trend. Since January 1st, the Bulls are 23 and 26. To be clear, they started off the season like 28 and like 11. So they've completely cooled off for a long time. The fact that they
They're
ended
having
up
a
at
tough time.
six, yeah, the fact they ended up at six is kind of a miracle if we really would think about it. So they did, and they also don't have anyone on the defensive side of the ball that I absolutely trust to play the Bucks, because the Bucks have three offensive players that are unbelievable when they're on: Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, and Giannis, obviously.
And I think it's safe to say that probably no Lonzo in the series.
Oh, and they've already confirmed Lonzo's not playing the
Yeah.
series.
So we're talking about this Bulls team, the no Lonzo Bulls team, were beaten by Charlotte by 16 at home last week.
Yeah, and even like I think Brooke Lopez like gets somewhat of the best of Vucevic some games too. I think it's just that far ahead Milwaukee is. They're getting right at the right time too. Like the Bulls just aren't, and it sucks. They might shock people though. To get 2 wins, but without Lonzo, it's going to be hard. I wouldn't be shocked if this series goes to 6. Like I'd be like, okay, cool. The Bulls were a good team. Like this year, we saw it. We know what they can be. Problem is, like you said, Lonzo. It just sucks. Like that, you sign him. That's your big tool there to get a big playoff series win. Like Bulls fans maybe thought they could have this year. It's just tough. Celtics Nets at 2-7.
So I see so many people picking Brooklyn to knock off Boston in this game and mentioning the fact that, and honestly, it's kind of true. The Bucks kind of dodged Brooklyn in the last game of the season. Did you see the lineup they trotted out against Cleveland?
Yeah, it was abysmal.
Yeah. The Milwaukee Bucks team that had been healthy suddenly got very hurt when a victory over the Cavaliers would have clinched them the 2 seed in a likely matchup with the Brooklyn Nets. They started Drew Holiday. That's the only normal thing. Then just give me the rest of it. Javon Carter, Jordan Nwora, Thanasis Antetokounmpo, and Sandru Mamakeshvili.
I'm
That was
gonna
the
trust you
starting
guys.
lineup for the Bucks.
We'll trust you got his name right there.
Mamakeshvili, yeah.
How
But that
excited.
being said, Brooklyn is in the 7 spot for a reason. And they're playing the hottest team in the Eastern Conference.
Hottest team in the NBA. Let's just say it. That's what they are.
Might be.
At least talking about the last 30, they definitely are.
I think for the threat, like if I just look at the matchup just on paper, it's like a 5-game Celtics win. When I factor in the fact that Kevin Durant's going to win one of these on his own just because when he's playing, probably the best basketball player in the world, I'll give him another and say that it's Boston in 6. But like, the Nets aren't that good, frankly, even with KD and Kyrie. And they're against a Boston team that is stacked. So, and the thing that I just challenge anyone that's not sure to go look at, who's the next option after KD and Kyrie?
Well, Joe Harris isn't there. For people don't realize.
The next 2 best scoring options are LaMarcus Aldridge and Patty Mills.
Yeah, that's tough. Probably Patty Mills, if I had to answer the question. A point to the Celtics.
That's not a good Patty Mills, who's having an awful season. No offense, Patty.
Started off really hot, but yeah, has tailed off completely since the first 10 games. A point to the Celtics here. With the Suns being the obvious exception of the best team in the NBA in terms of the last however many games, the Celtics since January 1st are 34 and 12.
That's insane.
Yeah. So just for fun, because I'm on here, all I got to do is change Celtics to Suns. Shout out to our friends at StatMuse.
We should let everyone know that meant that they were 17 and 19 at the turn of the year.
The Suns are 37 and 10 since January 1st, so they're literally only 2 games back of the Suns.
Suns have lost 8 games since January 1st.
Yeah, ridiculous. That being said, for me, it's two things. I definitely just realized that I was talking about Seth Curry because he was obviously traded to Brooklyn and Andre Drummond with the James Harden trade. I was talking about Curry on a sprained ankle in the Philly series. Forgot which. I think I
Oh,
had the
yeah.
note wrong. So yeah, they have Curry. They have a scorer that's probably better than Patty Mills right there. However, he is on a. Let me just be clear now. However, he's on a sprained ankle. So Josh, your point of the scorer part still stands, and I had the stat to back it up. I just told you the wrong series. I had him during the Sixers series by accident. Anyway, Curry's on a sprained ankle. The Nets, like I said, this stat still stands. They are the second worst defensive team in the playoffs. I said it a few weeks ago with Minnesota making it. Minnesota's the worst defensive team. Sorry. But the Nets can win a game where they score 130. The Celtics sometimes have these nights where they just might not score all that much from, like, say, a Jaylen Brown, and that may kill them if Kyrie and KD combine for 60, 65, depending on the night. I think this series probably goes 7. That's what I went with, and I went with Celtics in 7. Although it was close for me, it could have been 6, but I went with Celtics in 7.
So where we were real dramatic, we've got the second round in the East 1, 2, 3, 4, and out West 1, 2, 3, 5.
Yeah,
There you go,
yeah,
everyone.
and I
Hot
think
takes
that's
coming
probably
in.
what happens. That's the craziest thing. Like,
Yeah,
that's probably what happens. So,
I don't remember an 8 bidding a 1 since
oh,
the
8-9,
young
that's not
gun
happening.
OKC team with
It's not happening.
KD. I'm just kind of reminiscing the young gun OKC team of KD, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden knocked off Kobe's Lakers like in a first round 1-8.
They should have won that series too. Uh, I remember that series like it was yesterday.
That's the last
Um,
time I remember an 8 beating a 1. That's why I
I
couldn't
want
even
to
convince myself to pick the Hornets.
I want to end this with a little experiment / game before we go to trivia. Every round, we're obviously until we get to the final. I want us to pick because we did a couple weeks ago. We did our finals pick. We did this. That. I want to do a finals pick at the beginning of the playoffs right now, and I want to
Phoenix.
see. Well, finals matchup. Like, we'll do both sides for now. But right now you have Phoenix, obviously, and so do I. So I have Phoenix winning the title. I think it's fully laid out for them. I told you I would talk about that at the end really quick when we talked about, because I didn't bring this up with Phoenix earlier. But right now, I have a rematch of last year still, and I have Suns Bucks. I just wanted to see where you were because a couple weeks ago you were on Suns Celtics, and I think you're probably still there.
Still there. Um, that Boston Milwaukee matchup that's staring me in the face, I really don't know what's going to go down.
That
The
would be
Robert
what?
Williams injury, the will he won't he play is really.
He'll be back by the end of the first round / beginning of the second round. To be completely
Yeah.
clear on the timeline of his injury,
It's
he
just
could
he
not.
had a big injury and they were like, "Yeah, we're running him back out there."
Well, it was a
You've
meniscus and
torn your
something that
meniscus
can.
before. You know
I
this.
have.
Yeah.
Now the difference is I did a full tear and he did a partial, like, with a scope repair, which was
Okay.
it's just they're totally different injuries. That whole learning thing they give you when you do that is extensive. Um, Let me get this right. That would be a second round matchup between those two, would it not?
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
What we both have
Um,
is wrong too.
Couple things on Phoenix, since we're talking about Phoenix and possibly Boston or Milwaukee, that I forgot to mention with Phoenix earlier, but they deserve this. Their stats in the clutch. I'm, by the way, to be clear for people, I'm going to go ahead and spoil the second round, third round for me on the West. I think the Suns only lose 2 games this whole playoffs, probably. Like, that includes the finals. That includes the finals against the Bucks for me, and especially against the Celtics. If it's the Celtics, it might be a sweep or it might be 5. But the stats in the clutch for Paul and Booker are absurd. They are 1 and 2 in every single clutch stat that there is, and there's like a 10-point gap between them and third. The other thing I wanted to mention that I thought was funny, I forgot to mention with MVP earlier, with the Suns, is if Devin Booker doesn't win MVP, which he obviously isn't, that's not what I'm saying, but if he doesn't win MVP, it'll be the first time in NBA history where a guy who averages 25, 5, and 5 on the best record team in the NBA that doesn't win MVP. Just to kind of give a testament to the Suns and how good they've been with Booker. It's a testament to their strength as a deep team, even though he averages 25, 5, and 5. And then lastly, no matter why it matters for Phoenix playing Milwaukee or Boston, Phoenix has the best winning percentage on the road, and it's better than every other team's winning percentage at home. You ready for trivia?
Throw it at me.
You have a 2 point opportunity. Really quick for those that might not know, Josh is up 14 to 10. I know you're up four. I haven't looked yet.
15 to 11.
15 to 11. I knew it was close. I knew you were up four. Anyway, let's go with this. I mentioned earlier when we talked about Hawks Hornets that Trae Young passed Tiny Archibald, or was the second player to pass him, was the second player to finish the best in the league, both small guards. I thought it was interesting, with most points and most assists in the NBA at the end of the year. Total points and total assists. Your job today, you get 4 guesses because that's the fair thing to do. That's what you did for me, yada, yada, yada. You can relinquish a hint. Your point here is you have to guess who is second in both of those categories this season in total points and total assists. So Trae Young was first in total points and total assists. You have to guess who's second. While you were thinking /
What does this have to do with awards or playoff predictions?
The Hawks are in the playoffs, and I thought it was a cool.
Gosh,
the Hawks are in the no, the Hawks are in the playoffs. It's something that happened, and it's also something that happened this week that was really interesting. And they did make play. If they didn't make playoffs, I probably don't pick this. To be clear, so while you're thinking of it, I got to pull it up really quick.
So second total points, DeMar DeRozan.
Okay, I don't even have the list up, but I do remember that that's correct, and that is correct. That's not the one I thought you would get. Okay, how did you know that? I'm so mad at myself. You're about to be up 7, I think.
I looked at it when he was in the lead like a week and a half ago. Because people were making arguments for why is the scoring title not most points scored? Why is it average? And that was when DeMar was leading.
It should be average, if you ask me. But
depends on how many games you play.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point. They could change it, but not the debate for today.
Total assists. It's going to be someone that didn't get hurt. Honestly, just because I'll kick myself if it's not him. I don't even know if I think it is, but I'm just going to throw it out there and say Nikola Jokic, just to throw a guess out there.
It is not. I don't have the list because it's not pulling up for me right now. Give me just a second. It's not. I literally can't figure out why it's not pulling up. It's taking a second on Basketball Reference. He is not second, though. I do know them off the top of my head because that's...
Where is he? Total.
I'm finding out. Be guessing while I'm finding it out. Okay.
Well, my next thing, since I have 2 glasses left, is to ask for a hint. So,
Jokic is not in the top 5. I'll go ahead and pull up the whole list because why not? Because you already got the points one, right?
Yeah.
He's 6th.
So. Okay, he's close. Yeah, so I'll take a hint about who is second in total assists.
Trying to figure out a hint that's not too easy.
I love this wrinkle of the game that we've added.
Well, I do too, but I'm about to throw you like off the wall hint because I think it'd be funny. Because I don't think you deserve it because you're about to have.
As long as it's something that points to what the answer is, it's an allowable hint, even if it's off the wall. It can't be something that completely points away. That'd be against the rules.
Oh, brother. This guy didn't score 1,000 points this season total.
How many points did Trae Young score total this season?
2155.
Good grief. Okay.
This guy who's second in assists scored less than 1,000. There we go. That's a good hint.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. That's why I'm not giving you like blank. Like I'm not giving you conference. I'm not giving you that crap. I want to give you something that's not going to help you. That was the whole point of that hint. Which I think it was a decent hint. I think it's an interesting hint. The guy's second. I mean, holy cow.
Chris Paul.
I hate you so much in this.
Is that the answer?
Yes.
Okay.
Those who might not realize, I tried so hard. I tried so hard to get the right question this week. I really did. It was topical. Like what? All right. Since I already got screwed, what would you have done this week? Seriously, off the top of your head, what would you have tried to like?
I don't know. I didn't have time to come up with something.
I'll give you one that I considered briefly.
Yeah.
Who were the 4 playoff or play-in teams last year? That's way too easy.
4 play-in teams in what conference?
To make it last conference.
Oh, yeah. Lakers, Grizzlies.
Exactly.
Wizards. Celtics?
Yeah. That's what it was. So, yeah, I'm mad. There was no way again that every other stat, there's no way I could have tied in most turnovers this year, yada yada. There wasn't a way I could have made it difficult, and I tried. That's my excuse. Great job. You're up by 6 once again.
Right back where we were in January.
Hey, I still got the whole playoffs to go. I can do it.
It's a good thing that you have a chance to get 10 points on the finale night when
Yeah, but
Grayson gets his 10 sessions.
You have to miss 6 of those. That's
No.
what freaking kills me.
You better start bribing Grayson.
All right. Well, that was fun, like it or not, for me. Again, please check out the episode of Draft Chat that we released last week. Want to make sure that people are aware that we did that. Awesome draft content. Big board updates are probably coming here in the next couple of weeks. A couple of mine changed. I was very vocal on the pod that they probably didn't, and then I went back a couple hours after the show, and my big board changed quite a bit, actually. So we'll go in and we'll mess with those here in the next couple of weeks or so. Look forward to chatting more about that. Excited for the playoffs. Super, super excited. If you want to see our thoughts and reactions, you can follow us on Twitter at 2Pointers, Facebook.com/the 2Pointers Podcast, and TikTok and Instagram is at the 2Pointers Podcast. All right, Josh, anything else before we wrap up?
All fly.
All right. Close this out, please.
2Pointers Podcast. I'm Josh.
I'm down by 6 in trivia.
All fly.